part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
New year, new me, new co-host on the podcast.
Not true.
Damn it. A boy can dream.
Aw, that hurt my feelings.
I'm just kidding. This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Esports Collector,
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And as always, we are brought to you by the Press
Play
Podcast
Network.
What an intro.
I mean, it was an intro. We haven't been with you guys for
Two months.
So we had a break. I'd like to say we're back, refreshed, and ready to go. My nips might be a little hard, ready to go, but it might just be because it's cold down here.
You're wearing a graphic tee, and it's rubbing.
It's
so.
a graphic tee that you got me for Christmas.
I know. I brought it up.
And it's amazing.
Right.
What's my favorite movie of all time?
UHF.
UHF. If you are listening and you don't know what the movie UHF is, I don't know if we can be friends.
Well, it's like this. It's like most movie critics say. You have like Citizens Kane, To Kill a Mockingbird, and then UHF.
UHF.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
what, like, historically speaking.
Completely.
Weird Al doesn't get enough credit as an actor.
As an artist in general, Weird Al is amazing. So, yeah, Jason got me this T-shirt for Christmas. It's UHF with Weird Al's face just right in the middle of it in full-on 80s graphics, pink and yellow, and it's awesome.
Yep. Speaking of Christmas presents, I'll brag on you, and I'll let you talk about it more here in a while. But Gary made me a custom display, Jalen Waddle, and it holds a slab in there. You got me. And it's numbered to 20 with an auto, too. I mean, and a PSA slab, so I know.
Yeah.
You know, you don't like to buy those that often unless you're selling them for profit. So
It's true.
I really appreciate that. And then my wife got me it was Topps Archive, Eric Davis 1 of 1.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
Yeah.
So
solid Christmas all around. Hopefully you guys all had a great Christmas and a good start to this new year of 2024.
Yep.
It still hurts my brain that it's 2024.
Fun fact. So I think I've mentioned on here before that I do like this reselling business. If you're listing an item and you list it it's an item from 2003, it is technically a vintage item.
F you.
2003 technically qualifies as vintage.
I don't like that at all.
Well, you want to feel older?
No.
That was the year I graduated high school.
That was the year my son turned 3.
Yeah, good Christmas, holidays, all that fun stuff. We're back on the grind. We've got a lot of fun stuff cooking up for this year that we want to integrate. We're not going to tease things until we have them because you all have been through that dog and pony show with us many times.
I mean, Jason and I, one of the things that we talk about all the time outside of the podcast, we are both idea people. We have great ideas. We're big. The really like positive way to spin that is we are big picture thinkers. The accurate way to describe that is we are terrible at implementation and we kind of procrastinate things.
I'll go ahead and throw this out there. We will officially bring you onto our volunteer staff if you are a video editor. And we would love to integrate.
We will officially bring you on with no pay whatsoever.
Dude, I was a pastor of a big church for 11 years. This is what you do. You after your 40 hours, let me tell you why.
We don't have Jesus to beat anybody over the head with on the podcast.
No,
here.
but you can use religious guilt. It's fine. People just need motivation for it. But video is something we want to integrate in because at the end of the day, we're too sexy to just be on the audio waves. Like, I know your ears love us. We want your eyes to love us too.
I guess that's one way to put it.
You realize Gary's not jumping all over these opportunities. The reason for that is new year, new recording time for this first episode. It's morning.
It is morning.
We're behaving. We both have non-alcoholic beverages.
Because it's before noon.
It's before noon. So, we're reasonable about this. I don't know about you, but if I try to have alcohol in the morning, it will require a 4-hour nap in the afternoon.
Correct.
So,
you know who's going to have alcoholic beverages this evening?
I don't know.
My wife. She's going to see Nate Bargatze
I'm very
tonight.
jealous.
I found that out like on my way up here. She called me. She was like, "Hey, my friend called and asked if I wanted to go see Nate Bargatze. Is he funny?" I was like, "Yes."
He had one of the best jokes for an opening sequence I've ever heard.
Okay.
He goes, "My parents love to cough."
That's weird.
And he talked about all the public places they go and it was just really funny. That has nothing to do with sports cars, but we want to jump right in. Do we want to jump right in? Is there anything else you need to get off your chest?
About 50 pounds, but other than that, no, I'm good.
Same. You know, I speaking of that, 50 pounds on their chest, I had the perfect opportunity to save my own life. Did I tell you about this?
No.
So with this reselling business, everywhere I go, I'm going to like thrift stores, antique malls, flea markets, just sourcing all kinds of stuff. And I stumbled onto
a whole wall of it over here.
Yeah, I stumbled into a brand new, never been used 0.0 hours sleep apnea machine.
Why didn't you call me and ask me if I wanted it?
Well, because $200 cash is $200 cash.
Yeah, I would have Venmo'd you, bro.
Well, I could have also tried to save my own life.
Well, I've told you for years you need one.
Apparently, eBay does not approve of you trying to sell prescription medical devices.
But Goodwill's okay with it.
Goodwill was fine. It's only for $5. $5, and I turned around and sold it. The guy that bought it drove up from Cincinnati. Said, "Listen, my wife said I have to go to the sleep center." And then the next sentence out of his mouth was, now he holds his hands up as he's telling this story. He said, "They told me in 7 hours I fell asleep," air quotes, 157 times. Puts his hands down. "I just don't believe him." He said, "So I wasn't going to pay $1,000, but I'll buy this and take it home. My wife will be happy." So, by the way, that dude has sleep apnea.
100%. So
he
do
had
you.
no neck.
So do you.
And jowls that were just, it was just cheeks all the way
Like
down to the chest.
Mr. Ed.
Yeah, more like Mr. Potato Head on a stick figure frame.
Mr. Potato Ed.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
That was solid.
one too far.
Okay.
Actually, not that bad. Let's talk sports. So we are going to jump right into the NFL playoff picture, talk through what we're seeing with that. After that, we're going to walk through.
Well, we should talk about some of the offseason of the MLB, too.
Oh, I would love to talk about things that I have not researched before this episode, so
Okay.
everyone can see
Well,
how
maybe
much
we'll
of a
do that.
smarty pants
Maybe
you
we'll
are.
do that next week.
Yeah, maybe we will do that next week. We wrote down notes 4 minutes before I hit record. If you can't stick to the script, did I write it in pencil? Yes, it doesn't matter. All right, NFL playoff picture. Let's just kind of go in order of the games coming up. First off, I do think we need to give one more breakdown of what happened in college football this year for both of us. Nationally,
Did you
I'm
just
not
brain vapor lock there?
Facebook football for me has taken a hard downturn in regards to how much I love it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My feelings are hurt. The way that the Buckeyes season ended, and then the way it looks like it's going for Miami towards the end of the season, it's really been heartbreaking. I still love football, but I'm just saying I haven't been putting as many parlays down and watching 10 hours. And that's a me problem. But can we talk for a moment about Ohio State football? I don't know how many of our listeners are Ohio State fans.
Is it on the script that you wrote down?
Yeah, I just wrote it over. See, there's a block O here doodled in. But
What would you like to talk about Ohio State?
okay. My feelings are hurt
Why?
because of the okay, so let's say it's not about Ohio State. Here's the discussion. What should the expectations be realistically of a program like Ohio State? So the reason for this is with Ohio State, if you're not a Buckeye fan, with Kyle McCord leaving, there was a lot of people that were like, good riddance. There were people that were
Those people are stupid.
Hold on. Shut up and listen.
Okay.
And then talk. Get out of here. You're horrible. There were death threats. There was stupid stuff. There were other people. I would say I fall into this category. I don't think you are good enough to stay the starter at Ohio State if the expectations are that this will be a national championship contender team every year. Hold on. I'm going to let you talk, but Beyonce had the best video of all time. So there's been this big debate with this. Then we have this other situation. So as soon as McCord goes to Syracuse, leaves immediately, is on the sidelines there. It sounds like NIL deal, playing time, whatever the conversation was. Now in droves, it seems like Buckeyes are not staying or they're not playing in the big game. Harrison decides not to play. Then we take a beating by Mizzou, just a horrible beat. At some point, the conversation becomes about coaching with Coach Day. I'm almost done. I promise. I promise. This guy has had an unbelievable record over the whole scope of his coaching. But against winning ranked teams, it has been a horrible record.
Wrong. Against
top
five teams, not ranked teams.
Yep, top 5 ranked teams. So, national championship contender, you're going to have to consistently beat top 5 ranked teams. That has to happen to be in that picture. Big Ten, by and large, other than the Ship, got pretty waxed this year. So that's just a whole lot of college football talk. I would like you to bullet point through this. No, don't be pulling up stats on stuff. I want it from your heart because I don't want you to just be an encyclopedia here. Everybody expects that. But break down your perspective on a QB in NCAA like McCord, and then your perspective on a coach in a program like Ohio State. What are fans being absurd, wrong expectations? What's your take on it?
Yes, and yes. So let's start with Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord, in his first year as a starter, put up numbers very, very, very similar to those of C.J. Stroud his first year as a starter, very similar to those of Dwayne Haskins his first year as a starter. He did not put up as good of numbers as Justin Fields did his first year as a starter, but technically Justin Fields was a junior at that point, right? He had 2 years at Georgia before then and had played some. For all of the ups and downs of Kyle McCord, he was still a top 10 QBR quarterback in the entire country this year. Number 8 in QBR in the entire country. And our fans were ready to run him out of town because he threw a pick at the end of the Michigan game when he was getting obliterated in the chest as he let go of the ball.
And those were national champs, by the way.
Yes. The first pick he threw in that game was a bad pick. That being said, as a coach, a former coach, I would want to know what that play call was. I would want to be able to grade film. As fans, we look at something and go, oh, quarterback threw a terrible pass. Well, yes, but was the receiver running the wrong route? Did he get to his depth? Like, there's all kinds of things that go into how you grade out what a player, whether a player was successful on a play. There are, shockingly enough, lots of times, both high school, college, and the NFL, where a quarterback throws a pick and they do not get dinged in their grade from their position coach that week because they did what they were supposed to do, and the receiver or the running back or whoever did not. So those things all come into play. Kyle McCord is going to go to Syracuse, and he's going to, in all likelihood, tear up the ACC, or the ACC, the Big East doesn't exist anymore.
And don't underestimate what will happen in Syracuse. With Kyle McCord there, Syracuse has money.
Yeah.
A very expensive school.
Yeah.
There are going to be players that are like, yeah, I'll go over there. There's something happening there.
So that's going to be good for Kyle McCord, bad for Ohio State, right? Now, let's talk about fan base expectations. I'm an Ohio State fan. My wife might be the biggest Ohio State fan that I know.
Facts.
90% of Ohio State fans are delusional idiots. The end. And I'm an Ohio State fan. Y'all want to fire coaches who go 11-1 because they lose to the eventual national champ. They lose to a CFP Final Four team. Who are you going to replace Ryan Day with that's better? Who's better?
Okay, this will touch nerves because you're a former coach. Did you have another thing you want to say? Because I'm trying to.
Well, yeah, no, I was. So we were talking about those expectations with coaching, and record. Like, there's a portion of Ohio State fans who would be content if we went 1-11 every year as long as that win was against Michigan. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely batshit crazy. Ryan Day's losses are against teams who eventually win national championships. We lose to Georgia. We lose to Alabama. We lose to Michigan. All three of those teams went on to win national championships. They're the only teams that beat us. And like Georgia 2 years ago beat us by 3 points because we shanked a field goal. Is that shanked field goal Ryan Day's fault? Of course it's not. Was it C.J. Stroud's fault? No, C.J. Stroud got us in position to tie that game and actually win that game. We only lost that game by 1. A field goal wins the game. Like, all these things come into play, and then we want to crucify Ryan Day, who recruits like crazy, who has a staff that recruits like crazy. They went out and got, in the transfer portal, a guy that I don't think Ohio State fans were excited that we got. You're going to be excited next year. Will Howard's pretty good. He's a much better runner of the football than Kyle McCord, which is a piece that this offense was a little bit missing this year. He's very accurate, and he's got a ton of experience. Like, he's going to be an upgraded version for us of what Notre Dame got from Sam Hartman last year. And Notre Dame was thrilled with Sam Hartman last year.
Okay. 2 things.
Okay.
1. You talk about McCord in a positive way, the same way that you talk about Tua in a negative way.
Explain what you mean.
So you're saying QBR, this pick wasn't his fault. Because, Tua's that way too. He'll throw to spots, right? What's your job? That's your job.
Yep.
It's also your job to check down. It's also your job to see what is happening in the play with the coverage.
If there is a check down.
Okay. Yeah.
So a lot of the things that McCord did wrong this year were situations, and this is one thing that Ohio State can be better at, and then I'll let you go ahead because I should have touched on this prior. Brian Hartline is one hell of a receivers coach.
Yep.
He is one hell of a recruiter.
Yep.
And I think one day he's going to be one hell of a head coach. He's not a great offensive coordinator. Okay. He's not a great play caller.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think he ends up working on Sundays.
I think eventually too.
He's got the path for that. Especially the relationships he's developing with these top 5 receivers every year.
Yeah.
The way that, maybe it's a better way of saying it, the way that you feel watching Tua is the way I have felt watching McCord. Most of the time the job gets done, there is shade getting thrown at this quarterback that is unmerited, but just watching them, the eye test of confidence, composure, their delivery, consistency, as I watched it, and I will succeed that, I'm seeing this with Tua, especially at the end of the year, the eye test for fans who don't know everything that's going on looks like somebody that doesn't look like the last several elite, and I repeat, elite quarterbacks that Ohio State has had, which, hey, guys, that's not normal.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to
so
say.
So we have common ground there on that.
Yeah.
When it comes today, what do they want? Here's what I think it is. I think there's some ego involved. Championship winner Jim Harbaugh made this quote that ticked me off the other day. This was a couple years ago, actually. Some people are just born on third base.
Yeah, he said that about Ryan Day.
I think the expectation for a program like Ohio State is you're going for someone who has done this and proven this. And that is why I think a lot of fans have that hesitation, or did we look deep enough, or who else is out there, or blah, blah, blah. I think that's why. Look at the last coach we had. They spent all the money on the guy who beat us, right?
Yeah.
And however that ended, right? I think that's an expectation the fans have. Do you think Alabama, I will be shocked if Alabama brings somebody up from within the program now that Saban's retired. I will be shocked if it's not a huge name of somebody that's already established and proven.
Yeah, so let's talk about that track record.
This wasn't in the notes.
No, it wasn't. But let's talk about that. Oh, this might be a long episode, guys. We've got 2 months worth of talk to get in your ears, which some of you guys love. You complain about our 30-minute episodes. So let's talk about that for a minute. What is the track record of guys who get brought into that situation? USC went out and spent an arm and a leg to get Lincoln Riley. How's that worked out?
Yeah. Good point.
Urban Meyer came to Ohio State with huge expectations. And yes, he won a natty.
Yeah.
He also got smoked in a couple of other natties.
Yep.
Smoked.
Yep.
Like,
oh my God, that Clemson game.
There's no such thing outside of an outlier who doesn't exist anymore, like Nick Saban, as a coach who is going to, I mean, even look at Dabo Swinney, who had a 5-year run that was about as good as anybody could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson's 2 years into the shit.
Yeah.
And they got another year or so before they're going to be relevant again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's just how it goes. You can recruit all the 5 stars you want if you can't develop them when they get there. Or a lot of kids really struggle with that transition from high school to college. It's a really difficult thing to be the biggest fish in your pond and show up someplace and now you're not anymore.
Yeah.
Jamison Williams is a great example of that. Jamison Williams had to leave Ohio State to go somewhere where he could be the guy.
Yep.
Because he wasn't going to be the guy against Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, that's just how football works. And the higher the level you get to, the harder that adjustment is. And some guys have that and some guys don't. It's no different with coaching. When I look at Ryan Day, I see a guy who is a great scheme designer. I see a guy who is a solid play caller. I see a guy who, the one criticism I have of Ryan Day is that he tends to get conservative at the worst possible times.
Yep.
That's the one criticism that I would have of him, and I guarantee you that this year in their offseason self-scout, that'll be something that comes up. I guarantee it. Now, will he be able to override his own inclinations in-game next year and go against that? I don't know. But he's a guy who, when we're up by 10, kind of gets conservative. And that can bite us in the ass.
It reminds me of Jim Tressel. Quarter.
But Jim Tressel was that way from the opening kickoff to the end of a game. At least Ryan Day will get crazy until we're up.
So here's what I'm nervous about, and I think this will be a tale. This part might tell us if fans are really being that ridiculous, which it is possible. I would say that this is one of the most obnoxious fan bases in the world, all sports.
100%.
And I love it at some points, but like when people come up to me seriously, you guys got to understand this if you don't live in Ohio. I was at a card show a couple weeks ago, and this guy was complaining because I can't even remember who it was that was signing. Some Buckeyes were signing at a card show, right? And he was on a tirade, almost yelling because he said, because we lost that game, Buckeye Nation did not show up enough to that autograph signing. Or these guys are signing freaking autographs at every sports memorabilia shop within 20 miles of campus every weekend.
Because that's how they're making money.
And they're not Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
So fans can be super obnoxious. But here's the piece that I think will really tell the story. Can he continue the recruiting? And I'm not sure right now that the optics on Ohio State are that over the next 5 years they're maintaining this elite status.
I disagree, and here's why. Here's the key to
I'm saying that we will see what happens. I'm not saying we know.
Well, here's what I will tell you. If you think that high school kids that are at the level that teams like Ohio State are recruiting, if you think high school kids that the first thought in their head when they are picking a school is I can win national championships, you're out of your damn mind.
No. And
their thought process is who's going to help me get to the NFL. So
time out. That was the main factor 2 years ago.
Oh, it's still the main factor, and it will be the main factor forever.
Hold on.
At every school.
NIL changes so much when it comes to that. Syracuse, McCory was never going to look at Syracuse 2 years ago.
No.
There's no way that happens. It happens now because you're going to be a millionaire in college.
Who has more money in their booster base, Syracuse or Ohio State?
I don't know.
I do.
Well, no. Here's what I'm saying. Well, you can say that, but it's the Wild West right now with this. Schools like Syracuse are a perfect example. There is some old money in there in these schools, and there are a lot of schools like this that have never been a football powerhouse. that now these boosters can come in and through a car dealership offer a partnership that gives somebody $1 million to do 3 commercials. Like, the game has changed. You're an elite quarterback. You have the option of going to this university that may be a national contender, give you all the exposure, and they put a lot of people in the league. Well, I like that. You're going to get $500,000 over the 4 years. Hold on.
Who do you think's getting more NIL money?
Hold on. I think you're making assumptions that the booster base determines how much money they're handing out. I think that Ohio State is a program that also says, yep, we may not give you as much as that other school because we are the Ohio State University. I do think that's happening because look at the transfer portal. Why else would that be happening when people going to these bum schools?
So 2 reasons. 1, playing time. Because they want to play on Sundays, and you can't play on Sundays if you don't get film.
But I thought if you went to Ohio State, you'd get a better chance of going to the NFL. You just contradicted yourself.
No. If you earn that spot. Again, we talked about it with Jamison Williams. Jamison Williams had to go someplace else to get that opportunity because he wasn't better than the guys that are here. Ohio State's always going to, especially at certain positions. Ohio State used to be linebacker U. We are wide receiver U now. We are recruiting the top wide receiver. We got a kid that's already verbally committed. Do you remember Chris Henry played for the Bengals?
Yeah.
Ended up dying. His kid is an absolute freak. His kid, and I quote preface this by saying, as long as he doesn't like mentally lose his mind or have a freak injury, he is 30% more talented than Marvin Harrison Jr. He's an absolute freak. We've got a kid that barely played at all this year who is going to blow people away next year in Brandon Ennis. Brandon Ennis is going to absolutely blow people away next year.
Better than Davis Mills?
Different position.
Oh, okay.
You jerk. Although Davis Mills, when C.J. Stroud got hurt and got to play, played pretty well.
Okay.
Just so we know. So, anyhow, that's all Ohio State talk that we spent 20 minutes on.
I just think the next few years with the NIL could make things look very different for these programs that were historically the ones that all the students went after.
I don't disagree with you on that front. I think that teams are going to have to make – I think that's one of the reasons Nick Saban retired.
Yeah.
Nick Saban was not interested in playing that game, and he saw the writing on the wall. The coaches that are that old school, old guard of coach are going to be the ones that struggle. I think Ryan Day is going to absolutely adjust to that and already you think that Will Howard isn't getting a couple $1 million next year?
I think a quarterback could absolutely do that. I just think the playing field
Quinn Ewers got $1 million and was on the field for 3 snaps and then went to Texas.
I understand. Why did he go to Texas?
So he could play.
How much are they giving him?
Probably about the same.
I bet we could find out, and I bet it's more.
Probably, maybe it is, but he wasn't going to play at Ohio State, so the NIL didn't matter because he wanted to play in the NFL someday.
Well, I think you're talking out both sides of your mouth with that. You want to go to the NFL, you go to the Ohio State.
If you're not going to play.
Yeah. So this is the reason that McCord left, is what we're being told, is that he wanted playing time, and he wasn't going to be guaranteed that, so he left.
Well,
so
his dad wasn't going to be guaranteed.
The model didn't work. You would love to have McCord as your starting quarterback next year. Yes?
Yeah.
So the model didn't work. That's why I'm saying it's a case in point of it not working the way it should. There's going to have to be some adaptation there. And we're idiots if we think that Ryan Day is the only reason that recruiting is successful.
No,
however,
it's the staff. He doesn't do most of the recruiting. Hartline's a big part of that.
Big players, he's going to be in on that. So
for sure.
Anyway, we're a half hour in.
Yep, let's go.
We haven't even discussed football, but we're spicy.
This was your throw-in segment.
Yeah. So baseball is going to have to wait.
Boo.
Tomorrow, Saturday, January 13th, Cleveland will take on Houston. You and I have different teams winning this.
In Houston.
I have the Browns edging this one out, and you have Houston winning. Do you think it'll be like a sizable lead, or you think it'll be a pretty close game?
I think it's going to be like a 27-20 type game.
Cleveland's not going to give up more than 30 points. That's really hard to do.
So here's the issue, though. Likely no Denzel Ward. If he is playing, he's going to be playing at 70%. And if he tries to cover Nico Collins at 70%, Nico Collins is going to destroy his life. So no Denzel Ward. Myles Garrett has been playing hurt for the last month, and he's still hurt. His production in the last month has fallen off of a cliff. Until week 13, he had 14, 15 sacks, and since then he has half a sack. He's never been great against the run. He's decent, but that's not Houston's game anyways. They're going to run Devin Singletary on draws and some counter stuff and things like that. They'll just run away. So Cleveland's defense, while still really good, is not what it was early and mid-season.
That's fair.
Offensively, it's playoff football time. Cleveland's offensive line has kind of been a little bit of a mess. Joe Flacco has been an amazing story. It's been fun to watch. It's been cool to see him just have a little bit of a renaissance to what he looked like early in his career in Baltimore. I don't think that magic keeps going through a Super Bowl run. I just don't see it, especially because the running game is also not fantastic.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I think that Will Anderson might just eat Joe Flacco for lunch in this game.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of pressure. I do think they probably feel pretty good as far as the mindset, mentality, composure. Flacco is not going to be – he's so detached right now. When you talk about mindfulness, there's a mental component for quarterbacks that's so demanding compared to other rules.
He knows he's not getting benched even if he throws 4 picks. So let's go have fun and play football.
I think he's going to have a good run. I would love to see Cleveland win that game. I do not think it'll be easy. I think it'll be close. However, if Houston jumps out to an early lead of 2 touchdowns, I don't think Cleveland can catch up with them.
No, and here's the thing. Here's the thing too. In that game, from a card standpoint, since this is technically at least a sports card adjacent podcast, from a hobby standpoint, the hobby would love for C.J. Stroud to win this game. The Browns don't have a single person on that roster that moves the needle from a hobby standpoint. Myles Garrett doesn't have autographs. He doesn't sign.
I mean, Flacco's already up. I guess if they ran deep, you would get another 10 or 20%, but it's not like there's a
Flacco
super
ain't
fan
up
collector.
that much. No, I mean, Flacco's Flacco. His rookies went from $1 to $250. Who gives a crap?
What year was his rookie year?
2010.
It was some ugly product. It was out.
10 or 11, something like that. Trivia question: where'd he go to college?
Delaware Blue
Hens, who have a helmet that looks just like who? The Michigan Wolverines. It's the exact same helmet.
It wasn't enough for me to get Blue Hen. You had to have something else where you felt like you knew a little bit more. You thought you had me on that Delaware Blue Hen.
I did. I thought I was going to get you there.
Not today, bro.
So I don't think the Flacco magic continues. I think it'll be a fun game. I think Houston wins that game.
Will you be bummed if the Browns win that one at all?
I won't be bummed. From a hobby standpoint, I'll be bummed because I would like to continue to milk the C.J. Stroud bandwagon for a couple more weeks. It shows. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't, C.J. Stroud has a career path that looks really, really good right now. So.
All right, let's move on to the next one. This is a tough one for me to even talk about. Miami and Kansas City. It is possible that this will be the coldest game that has ever been played in the NFL. With wind chills, it's supposed to be 8 below. What was the ice bowl temp?
With wind chill, it was like -10 or -11.
Okay, so it's a possibility. The ground will probably not be an actual sheet of ice like it was for the ice bowl.
No, but it will be like playing on this cement floor that we are sitting on right now.
So Miami is going into this game with a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. Kansas City is going into this game with a rough year.
With
I don't know how else to
receivers
say
they
it.
can't catch, and everybody's doubling Travis Kelce, who, as much as it hurts me to say, looks like he's getting close to the end. He says he wants to play one more year.
Almost seems like he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, well, somebody that is as competitive as he is, who has had the amount of success that he has had in his career, both individually and as a team, to go through a year like this where you hear him talking, he is a really good teammate, and he never wants to throw guys under the bus. But just like Mahomes, you see in their face that they want to go catch the ball. Yeah. We can't do this by ourselves.
Yeah.
Catch the ball.
Well, and there's a lot of just back and forth on the sidelines. I don't remember seeing that.
No, the frustration's boiling over. Mahomes is like, guys, I'm really good, but I'm not 11 guys.
So similarity with Miami is like these are both teams that at certain points in the season have looked fairly untouchable, and then fast forward 1 week later and you're like, what team is this? And they both are kind of looking going into this game.
I think the game's going to boil down to who can run the ball better.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to boil down to.
I agree. And here's the only edge I would give Miami in their scheme. This motion offense, for lack of a better word, where, we have these sweeps happening. We have pretty well mastered every version of screenplays that they can run. Like, that's going to play their advantage because that's kind of, in a game like this, there's not going to be a lot of other effective options. Tyreek's going to want the ball a million times in this game.
Oh, it's going to be – that's your best bet is revenge game from Tyreek Hill just going off.
He's going to catch a lot of 1-yard passes and see what he can make out of them. I don't feel good. As a Miami fan, I don't feel good about their chances of winning this game just with the way the last couple of weeks have looked. And especially, I don't know even who is going to be starting at linebacker in any of those roles with all the injuries that we've had.
Pull the Browns and see if you can pull Ray Lewis off the couch and bring him in for a game.
Be awesome. So I guess as a fan, I'll say Miami. Your thought was it's going to be kind of duked out, but there's not a harder stadium to play in.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
I think Kansas City probably wins. I think it's relatively close, but I could very much see it being a 12-9 type game.
Here's my prediction.
17-10 type game.
My prediction is if Miami does not have 10 points at the half, they're not going to win the game.
Yeah, it's over.
And I think 10 points can keep them in there. I do think, that pass rush from Miami has just improved week after week after week. There's been a lot of as a fan.
But the guys who have been doing that are hurt.
Yeah.
Phillips is hurt. Chubb is hurt. Van Ginkel is hurt.
Yeah.
Christian Wilkins is a beast.
And his name's slipping my mind. 92. He's really stepped up a ton this year. Hold on. But I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, only that the elements are terrible. Like, you watch those old school ESPN classic movies where they're breathing in the steam.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's going to be like that, but don't expect Mahomes and Tua to be chucking. I'll be shocked if it's a high-scoring game.
Well, this is the thing. Kansas City's receivers outside of Kelsey and Rashee Rice, even Rashee Rice drops some stuff. They struggle to catch the ball when it's optimal conditions. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to catch a football when you can't feel your hands.
Yeah.
Right? And when you do, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't understand from a football standpoint, you didn't play in those kind of elements, go outside when it's 10 degrees outside with no gloves on and stand out there for an hour. Then take your hand and slap it against a concrete wall. That's what it feels like. Good luck.
Yeah. Be an interesting game to watch. I'm pulling for my team. I'm not optimistic. I'm not going to lie. I've been really disappointed the last couple of weeks. I'm so disappointed that my wife and I have watched Hard Knocks every week. The last 2 weeks, I just can't do it. And I told her if we win Saturday, we'll binge all 3 episodes.
You had a 3-game lead in the division with 5 to go. Lost the division.
Yeah. Yep. Who was it? Few tough games in a row. But the Baltimore game just broke their spirits.
But hasn't that kind of been the case for your team over the last couple years? They're really, really good against bad teams. They look okay against average teams, and they kind of get smoked against good teams.
Mm-hmm. This year especially, yes.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I'll leave that alone because I don't want to go on another 10-minute tirade about that.
All right, what's next?
Young team with a lot of mistakes.
Next game.
All right, Steelers and Bills.
Bills are going to smoke the Steelers.
I think the Bills win this game.
No TJ Watt.
Yep.
The end.
Josh Allen's usually really good for a first-round game.
Josh Allen's just really good. You can say what you want about Josh Allen. Yeah, I know he throws picks. He's responsible for 45 touchdowns this year.
I think you and I have a difference of opinion on this. I think the Bills' record is better than they are, and you think it's worse than they are.
I agree. We definitely do. I think the Bills are a much better team than what their record indicates.
I've probably watched maybe 4 or 5 of their games and
self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that I don't think I saw with them over the last couple of years as much. Just a little more chaos. Communication doesn't seem as tight. Like
Josh Allen's I think he has felt this year like he had to play hero ball.
Yes.
I think he has felt like he had to win games for the team. And when a quarterback feels that way, it doesn't matter how good they are, they're going to force things they shouldn't force, and bad things are going to happen. And you've seen that from Josh Allen this year. But you know what else you've seen from Josh Allen this year? 15-yard touchdown runs that running backs in the NFL couldn't make.
Yeah.
But
if
unbelievable
the game
throws
hinges,
into tight windows.
If the game, at some point in the playoffs, if the game hinges on Allen's ability to run, that's great. But there's going to be a defense that's ready for that. He's going to run into a defense that is ready for that.
The problem with that, it's the same problem that teams have with Baltimore. If you decide that you're going to take away Josh Allen's ability to run, that's fine. In doing so, you've lost a coverage man in the secondary.
Yeah,
and he's going to tear you up in the air.
If you have a good secondary defense, I just think that they're going to have a hard time getting through.
What linebacker in the NFL right now, outside of San Francisco, outside of either Dre Greenlaw or Fred Warner, what linebacker in the NFL can effectively be the guy that you use to shadow Josh Allen running?
Yeah.
I don't think there is one. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. That's it.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't like the Bills beyond this week, but I like them this week.
All right. Next.
Up next, Packers-Cowboys. I'm Packers on this one.
I am too.
The momentum is there.
Jordan Love's good, guys.
Yeah.
The Packers somehow, someway have done what no NFL team in history has done. And they have hit on 3 straight quarterbacks. Brett Favre, Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer. Not saying Jordan Love's a Hall of Famer.
He's a quarterback.
Jordan Love's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure about Jordan Love. It was first 2-3 weeks of the season, really good. Then he had about a 4-week period where teams started to adjust, and he didn't look good. And every quarterback goes through that, every single one. And the question is, how do they react? And Jordan Love reacted by having the 4th most touchdown passes in the NFL this year. Very low interception percentage. He's pretty good. And he doesn't have a lot around. Jaden Reed's pretty good.
What's crazy to me is he carries himself on the field like he's been doing it for 15 years.
Well, you talked about Joe Flacco being detached. That's how, if he makes a mistake, he doesn't. Okay, next.
Now, let's give a little props to Aaron Rodgers, because I do think that he is somebody that focuses on the mindset stuff a ton, and he seems to really enjoy the idea of he loves to be considered a mentor and a guru. I think that really scratches his ego. Well,
he's a giant douche.
His stock has really gone down.
He's a giant douche, man. Like, he's the guy. Do you know? I can't think of his last name. Nick. He is on a panel show with Chris Broussard. He was talking about Aaron Rodgers, and he was like, "I'm so sick of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers thinks that the media's out to get him because he's telling the truth. Nobody likes him because he's telling the truth. No, they don't like him because he's that relative at every family gathering that corners you and starts spewing idiocy at you all the time. He's so unlikable."
I think that he is a person that people bug him, and he's like, okay. And then he's going to keep going. People begged for his attention in the media. When Pat McAfee landed that weekly call with him, ESPN wanted to know, how did you do this? We have been trying. Now, I'm absolutely right about this.
No, I'm not disagreeing
We've been trying for years to make this happen.
Yeah.
Well, he going to talk. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Talk. It's like
and he spews just craziness.
They begged for it.
Well, they got it.
And now we know why. They're like, this is good for ratings. Like, talk about a conversation I never want to see in person. Him and Jimmy Kimmel sitting down. They both can get in a boat and go out to sea and have that. I don't need to.
This game, this Cowboys-Packers game, is the one game this weekend that I think could be a super high-scoring game. I think it could be like a 42-35 type game.
I am also with the Packers on this one just because the Cowboys, I think they've been exposed a few times this year.
They've also done some exposing of teams, though. The Cowboys are pretty good. CeeDee Lamb, really
very good.
Dak Prescott, pretty good. Now,
which Dak?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And then this year's Dak across the board has been pretty
much
good.
more consistent. Yeah.
The one thing that I think will hurt the Cowboys in this game, and it hurts every team when they get to the playoffs, if you can't run the ball effectively, playoff football is tough. And the Cowboys really struggled with running the ball this year.
Okay. Up next. Game I'm a little more torn on, but I do think my fandom is going to... Ooh, I just thought of an injury. I don't know. Rams in Detroit. I tell you what, I'm pulling for Detroit, but with the who's the tight end up there? What's his name?
Laporta?
He's injured. He's out.
Is he out?
I thought it was like a MCL, ACL, or something like that.
Let me check because I hadn't seen.
That's a big that's a big deal. Laporta injury. Oh, he's back,
yeah,
baby.
it looks like he's back.
All right, I'm all in on Detroit on this. I have loved watching this program turn around. I love it for the fan base.
I love Dan Campbell.
Yes.
So much.
What he did in Miami was great.
When
What
I
he's
was
done
playing,
there
if
is
he was
great.
my coach, I would have run through a wall for that guy.
Yep. And
Yeah.
he's genuinely that guy. You see coaches that are like obnoxious because it's not authentic.
Right. Well, I think that's one of the things that's been interesting in the NFL this year with coaches.
Yeah.
You look at guys like Dan Campbell and Mike McDaniel, and Sean McVay, even to an extent, he may have been the one that kind of started this trend. The guys who are, like you said, they're just themselves. They're not trying to be anybody that they aren't, or experiencing a lot of success. And it's a really great leadership primer for people in general. If you want to be a good leader, you don't have to pretend. Be yourself and incorporate good leadership techniques into who you are as a person, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
So who do you think's going to win that game? I'm going Detroit.
I think it's Detroit as well, but I do think it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
That game's going to boil down to one thing and one thing only. Can Detroit, and this is a name that nobody talks about, and this is a name that from a hobby standpoint could see a big spike if the Rams win the game.
Mm-hmm.
If the Lions can shut down Kyron Williams, then they win the game.
Yep.
If the Rams can run the ball, if Kyron Williams goes for 110, 120 and a tutty, I think the Lions lose.
All right.
That's what I think. Kyron Williams is really good and nobody talks about him. Rookie stuff is in 2022, by the way, in case you didn't know.
All right, last game. Two things I
Jared
didn't
Goff's
expect.
sleeper, too.
Two things I didn't expect.
Okay.
One, who I'm about to say is going to win this game. And two, why.
Okay.
So we have Eagles-Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers win this game. And I also think I am now a fan of Baker Mayfield after disliking him for a very long time. What he has done, what he's been up against and what he's done, he has always been a quarterback with a chip on his shoulder. And it was so annoying to me until you watch how he handled adversity. And a lot of times, I'll be honest, and not the Cleveland thing, I just think in general I viewed him as Manziel 2.0. With a little more talent, but the same mindset, the same. He's not.
Never has been.
He really cares. He actually cares about what he's doing. He cares less about how it's perceived.
Deeply, on both fronts.
Yes.
Which is a key to success in life.
Guys, he took the division.
So you're talking to somebody who's been a Baker guy for years. When you've disparaged Baker, I've said all he's needed is a coaching staff that believes in him and not having to look over his shoulder.
Now, was he handed some weapons in this? Yes, but this is a division that everyone beats each other up. Like, what's their record? They're just over 500, right? Like, it's a dogfight in that division.
I think that not only does Tampa win this game, I think they smoke the Eagles.
Which
I think it's a 10-point game.
Let's go back 2 months ago. I would have laughed at that statement. 2 months ago, the Eagles looked untouchable. Like, they're converting fourth downs at like 75%. Their defensive line is getting 3, 4, 5 sacks a game. It was insane. And then little by little, they've just kind of declined throughout the season.
Well, they've gotten injured, and that doesn't help things. However,
who's the latest one? Was it AJ?
No, Jalen Hurts has a broken finger.
Oh yeah, I saw that dog. Yeah, that was a good one.
Like I've played through that injury. He'll play through that injury, but it hurts. It affects your ability.
You guys are the same, dog.
Not even close.
You guys,
hey,
everybody,
close.
They're the same, dog.
No, I didn't make that statement. Didn't even try to imply that statement. But I have played through the same injury.
Yeah.
It hurts. It really affects your ability. And this is where it really hurts. It doesn't hurt throwing the ball deep. Because the way the ball comes off of your hand when you're throwing the ball deep, when it's that ring finger, the angle that the ball leaves your hand, it doesn't affect. Where it hurts and where it's really difficult is on things that have to be thrown on a rope. So screens to your wide receivers, slants, digs, things where the ball doesn't have arc. It's painful. It's painful, and it will affect you. I don't care how high your pain tolerance is. It will affect you. When you combine that with the fact that they're beat up defensively, and in general, they have not made adjustments. I think one of the things that you're going to see here, and I will go out on a limb and say this, if Philadelphia loses this game, I think there's a real chance Nick Sirianni gets fired.
Ooh.
Well, think about Philadelphia's history. They have not hesitated to move on from coaches that have taken them to Super Bowls.
I mean,
They moved on from Andy Reid after a winning season. They moved on from Doug Peterson.
He was a bum, right?
They moved on from Doug Peterson
Yeah.
18 months after a Super Bowl win. And now Nick Sirianni, I think we're starting to see Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon were a really big part of that team's success and ability to make adjustments.
Yeah.
This team, the second half of the year, is trying to do the same things that they were successful with in the first half of the year, but defenses have film and have adjusted, and they are not adjusting well at all. At a bare minimum, if they lose this game, both coordinators get fired. But I think realistically it might be Steichen. Not Steichen, Nick Sirianni.
Now I'm kind of excited about the playoffs again.
Oh, I'm always excited about the playoffs, but I think Tampa Bay just absolutely rolls that game.
Yeah, I've got them on that one too. All right, hobby news, and then I want you actually. Why don't you jump in talking about? So I'll let you walk through what you're developing here. We got something cooking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want this to turn into a big ad. We'll post some pictures and stuff on the Facebook page, but I started doing some custom card displays. I don't talk about my professional life a whole heck of a lot, but I owned a sign company that did a ton of design work for 15 years. And I haven't really messed around with any of that for the last 4.5, 5 years. But I saw some guys doing card displays, and I thought those are cool, but the designs are really not great. They're just really plain and boring. If you want something plain and boring, that's fine. But I started doing some really interesting, cool stuff, and it's gotten some decent reaction. So we'll post some pictures. It's all going to be right now at least custom. If there's a design that I've done that you like and you like that player, I can happily remake one. But we'll post some pictures of them and have them at shows and things like that. But I've like the one I did for Jason. We'll post a picture of I picked up a Joey Votto 1-of-1 from Bowman Sapphire that I did a display for. Got a really cool Juan Soto one that I did. Got a nice Ellie De La Cruz, a cool Nick Chubb. Like, there's some just cool stuff. And so I'm going to start doing a little bit of that. They're not crazy expensive. If you've got some cool cards that you want to display, whether they're in slabs or one touches, feel free to hit me up and I can show you some examples and see if you want me to make you one.
Bet. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I tried so hard.
I thought we were going to get through.
Rise above it.
I thought we were
Don't
going to
know
get
what
through
it
an
is
episode.
about
Please
that
stop.
little girl loving, but I
This is awful.
like it.
Please
I
stop.
love it.
No,
Come on.
I'm not playing this
Bring
game.
it home and we're done.
I don't want any more of it.
Like it. Love it.
I don't want any more of it. It was a good trade. Not a lot of hobby news in general cooking right now outside of Prism football dropping. Hobby super overpriced. Retail, if you can find it's the way to go, in my opinion.
Topps 2024 design release is out.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how I
Baseball.
feel about it. It feels, I'll be frank, this is how it hit me. I was like, ooh, this feels like in the early 90s when product design was like, we don't care, it's just going to sell. Like, it very much struck me like 90 Donruss. That's how it felt.
It did feel a little that way to me.
Yeah, it's just like, ugh. But it's got Ellie. It's got Evan Carter. It's got Encarnacion Strand. So I'm going to rip it. Like, it is what it is.
I agree. Next week, a couple things. You want to give them a teaser? We'll talk about, you want to talk about off-season baseball. We'll have a new NFL update. And then one topic that we want to spend a lot of time on, we'll save this one for next week, is what is happening with breaking. A lot is changing. If you were on Whatnot, Fanatics Live, any of these platforms that do with live breaking, even Facebook a year ago, it looks a lot different now. And so what's happening? Is it dying? Is it not dying? Is it changing? What does it mean for the hobby? We really want to dive into that, take a deep dive, give you some examples. I don't think we're going to necessarily throw names out, but we might.
Oh, we'll spill tea.
Okay. We'll spill the tea.
We'll spill it.
It feels good to be back.
It does. I mean, we got 55 solid minutes of reasonably average content.
I only ticked you off twice.
I don't even think you ticked me off,
You're
other than the
about to be-
singing.
You're about to be mad though, dog.
Am I?
Well, we played this golf simulator
Oh,
last week.
stop it.
No, hey, don't tell a lie.
I'm not going to tell a lie. We
So-
played 2 rounds.
Don't talk about you. Talk about me.
Second round, you smoked me. You played really, really well. Really well. I think through 14, you were 3 over.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not.
I'm about to run that back
Yeah,
today.
we're going to go play some golf here in a little while.
All right. This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Esports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.